What happens when 20,000 women decide that a king's authority is simply not their problem? Lagos, Nigeria, February 18th, 1977. Close to 1,000 armed soldiers surround a compound in the city. Inside, a 76-year-old woman is visiting her son. The soldiers storm the gates, they beat the residents, they set the building on fire. A soldier grabs this woman, this grandmother, this professor, this woman who once toppled a king, and drags her by her hair to a second-floor window and throws her out. Her name is
Funmilayo
Ransome-Kuti, the woman who taught Nigeria how to revolt. And what those soldiers did not understand is that you cannot kill a fire by breaking the window it came from. This is The Confident Woman, where we tell the stories history forgot to keep. If this is your first time here, subscribe. Funmilayo has been waiting long enough. The fire started much earlier. Go back to where she was born. Abeokuta, Nigeria, October 25th, 1900. She is born Frances Abigail Olufunmilayo Thomas, but no one will call her Frances for long. Her father, Chief Daniel Thomas, holds an unfashionable conviction for his time that his daughter deserves the same education as his sons. In 1914, he persuades the grammar school administration to admit 6 girls. His daughter is the first among them. The school gives her a Yoruba nickname she will carry for the rest of her life. Beware. It means the first girl. She is sent to England in 1919, a young Nigerian woman studying in Cheshire, learning elocution and music and French. 2 things happen in England that will rewrite everything. She discovers socialism, and she drops her Christian names. She returns to Abeokuta in 1922, not as Frances, but as
Funmilayo,
which means in Yoruba, God has given me joy. She marries Reverend Israel Oludotun in 1925. He is a school principal, a community activist, and a man who matches her restlessness. They are a well-matched pair of trouble. She becomes a teacher, one of the first to organize preschool classes in Nigeria, one of the first to run adult literacy programs for women who had never had the chance to sit in a classroom. She sits at the front of her classroom with the particular authority of someone who was told repeatedly that this desk was not for her. She takes it anyway. And then, in 1932, she founds a social club for women. It begins with tea parties. It does not stay that way. But actually, the most dangerous chapter of this story had not yet arrived. The Ladies' Club of Abeokuta starts quietly. Western-educated women, civic discussions, charitable work.
Funmilayo
is not the kind of woman who lets anything stay quiet for long. By 1940, she has opened the club to the market women of Abeokuta, the traders and vendors who run the city's economy from open-air stalls and pay taxes on everything they earn, and sometimes on things they do not. These women are largely illiterate. She arranges literacy classes, she sits with them, she listens, and what they tell her transforms the rest of her life. The Yoruba Native Authority, the colonial-appointed local government, has been confiscating market women's rice and selling it, pocketing the profits. Girls as young as 15 are taxed annually, even when unemployed. Women who cannot pay are beaten, arrested, or stripped in public. Men do not pay tax until they are 18. She also, during these years, becomes the first Nigerian woman to drive a car. The newspapers make much of this. She notes it and moves on. She has other roads to drive. She travels to the USSR. She travels to China during the Cold War. The colonial government labels her a communist threat. She files the observation and keeps moving. By 1946, the club has a new name, the Women's Union of Abeokuta, and a new purpose, 20,000 members, and a king who is about to discover what 20,000 organized women sound like. You are probably thinking, how does a women's social club become a political force capable of toppling a king? The answer is that it does not happen by accident. It happens when someone organizes it that way. The Alaka. Sir Samuel Ade Mohla, the traditional ruler and most powerful local agent of British authority, has spent years dismissing the market women's complaints about taxation. His response to their petitions is consistent. If any woman feels her taxes are too high, she should appeal to him individually. He has misunderstood whom he is speaking to. Funmilayo trains her women for what is coming. They cannot get protest permits, so they call their training sessions picnics. They practice facing tear gas. They learn how long they have to pick up a canister and throw it back before it incapacitates them. They rehearse the songs, traditional Wayo Yoruba musical ridicule, that they will sing outside the palace. Songs that name failures, songs that name collaboration with colonizers, songs that are a form of power no law can easily answer. They do not carry weapons. Funmilayo has been explicit about this. The Aba women's riots of 1929 gave the British an excuse to shoot. She will not give them that excuse again. They are 20,000 women, trained, patient, and done waiting. November 29th, 1947, the women move toward the Alaka Palace. As they near the gates, Funmilayo commands them to stop. She closes her eyes. She tells them, all those who are afraid may leave while my eyes are closed. She stands still. She waits. When she opens her eyes, every woman is still standing there. What she had built across years of tea parties and literacy classes and picnic training sessions and refused tax payments was what we might call the architecture of dissent. The art of turning every institution that tried to contain her into the instrument of its own undoing. She built it slowly, and she built it from the inside. And by the time the Alaka understood what he was facing, it was already surrounding his palace. The women sing, they maintain vigil, they refuse to disperse. Funmilayo is arrested for refusing to pay her taxes. Thousands of women converge on the courthouse. She is imprisoned, she gets out and refuses again. The British deploy tear gas. She has trained her women for this. The canisters come back. January 3rd, 1949, the Alaka abdicates. He is driven into exile. A king, toppled by market women with songs and no weapons. Most people stop the story here. The story does not stop here. The British government watches what she has done and draws its conclusions. She is placed under surveillance. She is labeled a communist. Her passport renewal is denied. Entry into the United States is blocked. She is the only woman in Nigeria's 1947 delegation to London walking into the offices of the British Crown to argue for her country's self-governance, and then getting banned from the palace in Abeokuta the following month for insulting the Alaka. She is the only woman at the National Constitutional Conferences. She runs for political office. Her party refuses her a second nomination. She forms her own party. She advocates for Nigerian women's right to vote and lives to see it granted at independence in 1960. And through all of it, she tells her children something. She tells her son, Fela, the boy who will become a legend, who will take Yoruba rhythms and political fury and turn them into a sound the whole world hears, that music is a weapon, not a metaphor, a methodology. When they come for you with guns, she says, you answer with something they cannot confiscate. Fela listens. He builds the Toppled Republic, his commune and his fortress, his response to a military government, and fills it with exactly the kind of dissent his mother perfected against the British. The tactics are hers. The stubbornness is hers. The refusal to be moved is entirely, unmistakably hers. In 1970, the world gives her the Lenin Peace Prize. In Nigeria, she is granted a chieftaincy title and becomes the first woman appointed to the House of Chiefs. She is still in her 70s, a regular presence at the Toppled Republic. She is still moving. February 18th, 1977, 1,000 soldiers. She is thrown from a second-floor window. She is taken to hospital. She lapses into a coma. She dies on April 13th, 1978. Fela releases an album he calls Unknown Soldier, named for the military inquiry's conclusion that no one could identify which soldier was responsible. He never fully recovers from what was done to his mother. He continues because she taught him that continuing is the only possible response. And here is the triumph the medals do not capture. The Yoruba musical ridicule she used to topple a king in 1949 became the rhythmic foundation of her son's global catalogue of dissent. Her tactics crossed from the palace gates of Abeokuta into concert halls in Paris and Lagos and New York. Every generation that has sung along to Fela music has been, without knowing it, singing the lessons his mother taught him. She turned the music into the weapon. The weapon outlasted everything they tried to do to silence her. She spent her entire life walking into rooms that told her to leave: the school, the colonial government's offices, the Constitutional Conference, the King's Palace, the British Crown, and finally, a compound surrounded by 1,000 armed men. She walked into every one of them, not because she was fearless, because she had decided that fear was not a reason to stay outside. The women she organized did not have titles or connections or money. They had songs and discipline and each other and a leader who closed her eyes outside a palace and waited to see who was still standing. Everyone was still standing. The question is whether you will be. If her story moved you, subscribe. There is a new woman's story here every week, and she is already waiting. Thanks for watching The Confident Woman, featuring great African women. Subscribe for more African stories for African women rooted in African tradition. Their courage is your inheritance. Come and collect it.